I've been covering autos and transportation tech for since Cruise was like coming out of the student competition. So it's been a long while for me, and I have a very esteemed panel. I could interview each one of these people for 40 minutes, so we'll try to make the most of this group chat. They will tell you in their own words who they are, because they'll tell you better than I will, but I might hop in a humble brag if you don't do it hard enough.
Are we doing 40 minutes each person?
Yeah.
We have time for that, right? I'm Brian Green. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Gridwise. So what is Gridwise? We're a mobile app that's focused on empowering the on-demand workers who are working for many types of rideshare, delivery, other types of task-based services. Really, our app is designed to help them manage their gig work as if they're operating a small business. We help them maximize their income, track all their work in one place. Why is that important for today's conversation? Because we bring the perspective from the human driver side of things and how marketplaces are operating today. So what we can see is as we've had over 1 million drivers who are using our application, they're connecting their work accounts, they come in our app, and we can see all of their trips, their earnings, all the demand that's taking place. We have supply and demand visibility. And then you take that, now you have 1 billion trips and you have $10 billion of earnings that have been tracked. You can actually see what's happening across the US, what's happening across every city in terms of just the dynamics that are playing out. And when AVs start to roll out in markets, how is that impacting the marketplaces today? How is it impacting human drivers? So we have the mobile app, I'll say this in closing, the mobile app that we provide to drivers on the back end with all the data we capture, we productize that, anonymize it, provide aggregate insights and analytics to every major gig economy company, autonomous vehicle company, a lot of the big hedge funds out there, researchers and others, many people in this room work with us today. So
I was going to ask you also had military experience, and very importantly, you were a rideshare driver, right?
That is true, yeah. There's good research there.
Who's driving for these services? Okay, interesting. Okay.
Fellow drivers out there. That was really the impetus for coming up with Gridwise, was actually experiencing driving firsthand for Uber. When I started in the military, I went into banking after that, and I was doing Uber and Lyft, and people were just like, why are you doing this? And I was like, I don't know, it's interesting technology, and it brought me to where we are today.
I think Matt might need to borrow me.
Matt has a loud voice.
I've been told I can project. I'll be pretty short, but Matthew Wood, VP of Safety and Validation at May. We're a Michigan-based autonomy vehicle developer, and I'm excited to be here. 10 years in AV development and safety, and 10 years in regulatory compliance, so we kind of cover all the bases here.
Where are you guys operating AVs right now?
We operate in California, Texas, Georgia, Michigan, Minnesota, and Japan.
Ashu, Rege, I am head of autonomy at DoorDash, and my team and I are working hard to bring you your dinner to our DoorDash dog robot. So that's what we do.
What did you do before DoorDash?
I was a SVP of software at Zoox, which some of you might have seen driving around here. And prior to that, I was at NVIDIA.
Did you work on the systems that led up to this recent Alpha Mayo release?
No, that was I left NVIDIA more than 10 years ago. So, but I was working on self-driving and computer vision applications back then. Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
Incredible experience.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see a lot of familiar faces here. My name is Xiaodi, the founder and CEO of Auto. We are a level 4 autonomous driving truck company, and very different from other autonomous trucking companies. We operate our own fleet, and that's why I think this is a perfect thing for us to talk about, like operation and technology. All things are combined all together. My personal dream is to revolutionize this industry by really tightly integrating technology and operation, making sure that our cost per mile goes lower than that of a human. By the way, I hear more cost per mile today than the rest of this month already. So I'm very happy I'm coming to the right place.
You also had a really interesting path to this startup. What were you doing before Auto?
Oh yeah, I've been doing autonomous driving for 10 years. So my last company was too simple. I was doing technology, and I think just have to admit that I was a little naive, thinking technology solves every problem. As long as you build the best technology, I don't care about everything else. But certainly things have changed, and I'm the CEO of the company, so technology is only one part of it, and my focus right now is more on the product, even on the regulatory side as well. We're trying to promote the autonomous AV legislations, which I hear a lot of echoes on the other meeting, which I think best regulation is not no regulation. Best regulation is a clear regulation. Can't agree more with Lora on that.
Hi, I'm Luke Vincent. I'm a Chief R&D Officer at Nexar. We're the organizer of the event tonight. Thank you for coming. I've been in AI and computer vision my whole career. And in the past 20 years, focused on sort of the applications of data collected at large scales from street level, right? So, for example, I was at Google building Google Street View, which probably all of you have used, leveraging data collected from hundreds and hundreds of cars around the world. Then I moved on to sort of autonomy. I had along the way low to get started, but went to Lyft to build Lyft level 5 autonomous division. Again, very data heavy effort, and time you try to build AVs. And what attracted me to Nexar is in fact the data piece. So Nexar has been around for about 11 years, and Nexar operates a network of dash cams. Right now on the order of 350,000 of them. And we're able to collect rare events from these dash cams, rare events which are critical to building safe AV systems. And I'm sure Lora will ask me more questions about this at some point. But bottom line, we are building platforms for AV developers to use to train and validate, and we're also building our own ADAS and AI models on that data with performance that far exceeds any other system we know of in terms of recall, precision. Time to detection of issues and the breadth of things we can detect. So very exciting time to be here.
This kind of emerging industry has been through so much. So many companies have come and gone. There have been different iterations of the tech. I feel like we're at AV 2.0. And given all of your history, what keeps you hanging in, or what keeps coming back? Who wants to start?
Or maybe I can get started. I think when I start Auto, I got investors coming to me, Xiaodi, doing anything else but autonomous driving, I give you $2 billion now. And I said, thank you, but no.
Like chatbots, or what are they wanting to do?
Yeah, because that was a time, summer of 2023, when ChatGPT was like overwhelmingly popular amongst investors. Of course, there is a big wave on that, but I think the thing that I keep attracting me in the autonomous driving is that there is a real value out of it, and I can see the real value out of it, but I really honestly don't see that value in like a t-shirt folding humanoid robots. Like seriously, I just don't understand the value. But here we're talking about a $1 trillion market. And if you're thinking about doing laundry or doing the whole house cleaning, that's probably $1 billion market, which is not small, but compared to $1 trillion, that's 1,000 times difference. And the contribution of technology in delivering that also can be very well quantified. We're talking about every cent per mile. I mean, in fact, a couple months ago, we did an internal calculation. Our cost per mile, removing the driver, is $1.89, meaning that we're already making money in those driver out runs. So this is the thing that I think, apart from all of these hypes, there is a very calculated way of creating value. And that is the thing that I value the most.
Now, what's your kind of guiding star?
Safety. To be more verbose, to be honest, it's a really complex problem. That's what keeps me in AV. It's what keeps me excited. We can say that safety is everything, but just looking at the types of comments and discussions so far today, we've talked about regulation, we've talked about fleet operations, charging, we've talked about safety, we've talked about data collection. It's really so multifaceted. The challenge and the promise of AVs, of how it can change our lives, that's what's exciting to me. That's what's kept me engaged for the last 10 years and will for many years to come.
I can go next. So we're doing something quite different from, a lot of talk has been around AVs moving people, but we are moving, bringing you food and other things that you might want. And DoorDash these days, by the way, down in Houston, we pretty much deliver the whole range of things, whether it's electronics or home improvement, even clothes if you want. you can order on DoorDash. So what is exciting for us doing this is the impact we have on local merchants, local businesses, and the local economy. Because when you bring, a merchant to a new customer through our DoorDash delivery, for example, that's something, that puts them at the same playing field as maybe bigger companies that might be able to do better operations and logistics. And so that empowering those local entities is really exciting. And then the other part that I really love about my job is just the awesome technical operations and logistics challenge that all comes together when you're trying to coordinate this three-way marketplace. So you have merchants, you have customers, and then you have the robot in different modalities. We are working with lots of other companies, like drone companies, sidewalk robots, and we built this thing called the Autonomous Delivery Platform. So how do you coordinate all of that? How do you make sure that the right delivery modality is being used for the right delivery? And so those are kind of exciting problems that we get to solve on a day-to-day basis. The other, I must say, more than anything else, has been a passion of mine since I can't remember when, and I love wheel robots specifically. And there's just something cool about watching, especially our DoorDash dog robot, which I've been seeing. I encourage you to check out the videos, just making its way all by itself, navigating through traffic, dealing with pedestrians, dealing with complex situations, and it's autonomous.
I want to ask, you touched on something that's been on my mind, which is what kind of impact is this having on drivers, the jobs of people that work in logistics, dashers? I know Ryan's company studies this pretty extensively. What are you seeing about the impact to drivers and how they make a living in places where we have autonomous robots or AVs on the road?
Yeah, I would say I think as part of that, we actually just published our AV impact report today, so anybody can go check that out. You can look it up on Google or check my LinkedIn out. But outside the shameless plug there, I would say that yes, we are seeing we're seeing an impact. There's inferences to make. There's a lot of factors that go into impacting a worker's earnings and the way that they're working out on the road. But where we see kind of a clear delineation between AV cities and non-AV cities is really, grounding ourselves at the nationwide level. When we look at what's been happening over the last year across the marketplaces, particularly on rideshare, is we see looking at metrics like trips per hour. How many trips does a driver complete in a given hour? We've seen about a 2% decline there. We've seen utilization drop as well. But when you filter that down to AV cities and you say like, okay, well, generally we could probably say that there's an oversupplied market that exists right now as unemployment's rising, more people are flocking to the gig economy. But you filter that down in AV cities, you see that accelerated at twice the speed of decline.
So in a typical city without robo-taxis or whatever, you're seeing 2% decline in trips per hour, did you say? Trips per hour?
On average, we're seeing that nationwide, but then when you filter that down to AV cities, that's where you're seeing at about 5.5% decline.
Are you studying traffic congestion? I'm wondering, because with all the hope of autonomous vehicles and the mobility it brings to people who maybe couldn't drive themselves or wouldn't, and the potential safety, I wonder and I worry about congestion. So are you studying that? What are you seeing?
We're looking less at the congestion itself, but I think as we heard in panels earlier about congestion is that, I think that, we've heard and understood that over time through a lot of studies is that, rideshare vehicles have contributed to that. I think the cities and different merchants have done a good job of like standardizing pickup and drop off areas, even the platforms themselves. But really, I think the core problem that's tying into the impact to the human drivers today as you roll out these vehicles is the fact that the market's already oversupplied. And you have a massive amount of drivers who are out on the road relative to the demand that there is to serve. And so I think that the labor pool is growing faster than the demand pool has been.
So I report for CNBC and I do a lot on Tesla. It's one of the most closely followed stocks and companies out there. And Elon Musk is out there on earnings calls every time saying like, now his news story is self-driving cars are a solved problem. He said this at Davos, he said this today. Is self-driving a solved problem? And if not, and I disagree, what are the most critical aspects of self-driving that remain to be solved in your view?
I can stop this question to answer the last question. I think is there a stop problem? Probably not yet. I think there's still like most driving, self-driving is easy. Right? Driving and you're following the car in front of you most of the time, right? So that's easy. But when you're talking about the very long distribution that may happen in our streets, that is not solved yet, right? Some things happen very, very rarely. Like for example, fatal accidents happen on average every 100 million miles. So how often are you going to see one, in your self-driving operation that you're testing your stack? You won't see that. So how do you approach that? Simulations. Synthetic data have been part of the story for a long time, but synthetic data are not sufficient, right? They're only as good as your imagination, right? What can you think of that you can then create and create variations thereof, and then maybe train and validate, and it's not sufficient. So what we find is that I think data is where real data is where it really gets eroded, right? And it is true that I believe Tesla has an ability to collect data at scale, data from all their cars, rare events. That's unmatched, right? But only enough. Number two is we believe Nexar, right? Because the number of cameras we have out there and the ability to collect these rare events as well from all these 20,000 cameras out there. So data, I think, is the linchpin of this, and I think validation testing is still kind of the big thing out there. How do you prove that you're safe, across all range of situations in your ODD? Okay. Matt and Trust.
Yeah, I'll definitely build off that, and obviously the previous comments, which is the permanence of the problem. I think when we zoom out at the nationwide level, still the number of vehicles deployed in fleets that are fully autonomous, L4 application today, is still a very minor number of total road miles traveled compared to the national 3 trillion annual miles. I think we're still in the millions of miles, single-digit millions of miles across all the fleets in the U.S. today. That pales in comparison. That tells you how permanent this problem is and how much opportunity there is for the technology. I look back again, zooming out. The size of the annual fleet and the age of the annual fleet of vehicles on the road today is 11 to 12 years old. That means it takes 11 or 12 years for this technology to phase into the marketplace. And we're still not that far into market penetration of even basic L2 ADAS functions. L4 is even a smaller percentage. So for me, this is still not a solved problem. And there are a lot of bigger problems to solve. Safety is one, but I think our earlier panelists, especially Mr. Tomlin over here, was pointing to congestion. Congestion is a safety problem. This is a reliability problem. People don't think about safety and reliability in the same way, but they absolutely are. This is why it's such a big problem. And that's what's engaging me. Xiaodi?
Okay, yeah. My answer, no, it is not a solved problem. And I think Tesla is solving a different problem than all of level 4 players. Why? Because level 4 is about liability, and level 2++ is about safety. And there's a distinction. The liability is something that you wanted to completely eliminate by design. And the safety is something you wanted to minimize by optimizing. Those are different approaches, and I think the core of that is, are you treating your company a level 2 company or a level 4 company? I mean, of course, I have no connection or anything to Tesla, but my view at Tesla I wanted to share with everyone is that I view Tesla as a car manufacturer, an OEM company. And just like, if a chef, no matter how much artistic talent that they have, no matter what stories they tell, it's like, I'm an artist, I'm a hobby artist, but in the end, the chef always wants you to go to their restaurants to eat. So the thing is that OEM is an OEM. The ultimate goal for every OEM, I think including Tesla, is to purchase by their cars. And that is really the fundamental distinction between the operation company versus the OEM.
I guess, since everyone's bringing up the SAE levels, this has been really difficult for me as a reporter because it's like, all right, the layperson here's driverless, and they think driverless, no driver in the car. And then you're talking about these levels. Should we have levels, or should it just be two things? There's a driver or there's no driver?
I would agree with that. I think the levels make the conversation more confusing than it, and it's pretty relatively archaic when those came out. It was a good faith effort to give you some sort of categorization, but it really is exactly that. Driverless or there's a driver. However, it's also important, I think, to address some of the earlier comments. So first of all, I do think that the L4 driving problem in specific ODDs has been substantially. So I'll, wake you all up with some spicy entree this year. And I or at least on a glide path to get there. I don't think that anybody would say at this point, oh, I'm getting the way move. Most of us would maybe put, somebody said they're 7-year-old, but I think most of us would take a win. And that
This
tells
room,
us,
certainly, yeah.
right. And so that tells us, and in then sort of a situation like San Francisco, that tells us fundamentally that as a customers, we have accepted this technology to a large degree. And sure, can they be better, get more efficient? Is it gonna get more camera only? All of that will happen. But it's like, Kitty Hawk, right? Flight. And so that moment has arrived. So the question really becomes, what next? And I personally think the single most biggest challenges are going to be operational, logistics, lots of those discussions happened in the earlier panels, and commercialization. And so that's going to be, and it's from, and also we at DoorDash think of delivery as uniquely different in substantial ways from robotaxi. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's a three-way marketplace, but it's also, you think about what you need to actually, a burrito doesn't walk from the curb to the house it's going to be delivered. It doesn't put itself into the delivery robot. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics that happen on the delivery side. The other part of scaling, frankly, what is scaling at the end? Right? You need to be in this context. You need to be in many marketplaces. You need to be in many cities. You need to have relationships, in our case, in the delivery market, with merchants,